if you want to make this conscious decision to pursue this and to make this your passion and your occupation, you need to make that conscious decision now. And I remember going, well, I could see myself doing nothing else. I love this more than anything. I love waking up in the morning at 5 o'clock to hit golf balls, and here I sit now, 11 years later, and I think I've made a pretty decent choice.
You're listening to the MatchKitCast with me, Ben Karpinski, bringing you closer to the athletes on the MatchKit.co platform. We are here at Royal Johannesburg and Kensington Golf Course here in Johannesburg. It's a bit of a cold winter's morning, but I've got Brandon Stone with me here today to find out a bit more about him and, of course, his rise in the golfing world. Brandon, how you doing?
A little bit chilly, as you said. It's a cold winter's morning in Johannesburg, but happy to be playing golf.
Yeah, I guess after this whole COVID period, you've been sidelined with like all other sports people. So now it's an exciting part of the year where you can pick it up again. So just kicking off our MatchKitCast here with you, where did it all begin for you in golf, and how did you become the person you are today?
One can argue that my timeline for golf actually started before birth, because my father's obviously been a professional golfer for the better part of 4 decades now. And prior to him, my grandfather used to represent South Africa at a high level, being the South African amateur team. So golf's always been ingrained in the stone name, if you want to call it that. And coming out of the womb,
good pun there.
100%. Coming out of the womb, I didn't have many a chance of becoming a professional footballer, but the passion for the game and the love for the game has always been within the Stone family, and I'm happy to carry on that legacy.
So you didn't feel any like overly hugely pressure towards that, though? It was just something that you really enjoyed, and you went from strength to strength in a very natural way.
Very much so. People often believe that having a professional golfer as a father kind of led me down this road, and it's honestly in the contrary to that. My dad, obviously growing up as a professional back in the heyday, realized how difficult it was, how many kilometers you have to travel, how far you have to be away from the family, how many births of your children that you miss, so on and so forth. So he knew the sacrifices that came with it. So he never actually pushed me towards becoming a professional golfer. And it was probably my 16th birthday, I remember quite vividly, where my dad sat me down. He's like, okay, cool. Well, if you want to make this conscious decision to pursue this and to make this your passion and your occupation, you need to make that conscious decision now. And I remember going, well, I could see myself doing nothing else. I love this more than anything. I love waking up in the morning at 5 o'clock to hit golf balls. And here I sit now, 11 years later, and I think I've made a pretty decent choice.
Well, through the age groups, you were the talented kid who went from strength to strength. I mean, it was pretty obvious you were destined for higher things. Obviously, if you don't know your career too well, or if you look just from an armchair kind of golfing perspective, the SA Open Championship, that really put you on the map. How much did that change your life as a professional, winning that incredible tournament?
It was so peculiar. At one stretch of the left arm, you could say it was the best day in your golfing career, but at the same time, you look towards the right hand, and it had a lot of negatives attached to it too, because growing up, I had caddied for my father in the SA Open many a time, and the South African Open was the pinnacle for me at that time. And to win that championship at 23, I think it was, or 24 at the time.
Yeah, you looked about 17.
I looked about 15, if I'm going to be brutally honest. Was simply incredible from the point of view being so young and getting my name on this illustrious championship. But I kind of sat down 2 or 3 weeks later after that and said, well, what now? Because you grow up as a kid, and some people want to win majors, some people want to be number one in the world. For me, growing up, my pinnacle was winning this SA Open Championship that I watched Ernie, Retief, Trevor Immelman, Charles Swartzel, sorry, Charles, Gracie, Louis, all these guys win. And now I found myself with my name alongside these icons of golf at the tender age of 22 or 23. And where do you progress? It took me a long time. It took me a couple of years to actually refocus, re-identify what I want to do, and set bigger goals.
Well, clearly the bigger goals did work. I mean, you went on to win the Alfred Daniel Championship, Leopard Creek. Obviously, the Scottish Open was a huge step in your career as well. So how important is goal setting as far as when you look at yourself as a golfer? I mean, if you're in a team sport, you're within certain structures where you know you need to excel. A golfer's journey is very much their own journey. So how have your goals basically changed throughout, and how have you got to the point where you can progress at a more tangible level?
Well, the goal setting within golf evolves as your characteristics and as your actual personality does. I think for example, a guy who's been out on tour for 20 years, his goal is to have a happy family, be able to provide for his family, and to spend as much time with his kids and see them grow up. Whereas my current standing in my career, one of the goals that I've set for 2020, even though it's been COVID riddled, is to have my best finish on the race to Dubai. So my best finish at the moment, I believe, is 25th. So at the moment, I'm sitting 18th. So the goal, the train tracks are moving in the right direction and we're close to that. But I've also got goals that are set for 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line. So you've always got to keep that little bit of perspective during a season, keep that little bit of perspective of where you want to be, not only now, but when you're 50 years old, sitting on a beach in Florida, sipping on a pina colada, if you can reflect back on your career and be content and be happy and be proud of that.
Another thing I find very interesting about golf, and obviously with your career, is that golfers are very much their own brands, more than many other sports involved. So you can stand on the tee right now, boom a drive 300 meters down the middle of the fairway, and then carry on and do this week after week after week with the composure you need to make the big money. But, I mean, do you have a team that basically puts you in your best position both physically and mentally? And how do you see yourself as a brand as far as how you go about your work?
So the one thing that I identified quite early, and I think I was very fortunate to do that, is to realize that I may be a professional golfer, but at the same time, I'm an entertainer. And if you look at any company, you need to employ people around you to help you develop your brand, to help you develop your footprint on sporting market in South Africa. So when it came to my victory at the Scottish Open in 2018, I remember the Monday after that sitting down and going, where next? And I sat down and I drew a list in my hotel room on the window, the mirror rather, in the hotel room with a Sharpie, drove down, okay, what do I need to work on? What is my strengths? What are my weaknesses, opportunities, whatever. And I remember so clearly writing, well, I'm tipping the scales now at 71 kilos of skin and bones. I can play 2-3 weeks maximum on the road without fatiguing and losing focus. So I identified that, and it wasn't a case of hiring a buddy to become my trainer. It was a case of I hired the most qualified person in South Africa to travel with me full time to make sure that he gets my lazy butt out of bed on a Saturday morning at 6 o'clock to go and lift some heavy stuff and develop my body so that I could compete with the best players in the world. And that became Gavin Groves. Then it was a case of I knew that I needed to have someone just balance my life, because when you are in such a high intensity sport, you kind of lose focus about life off the golf course. So I needed someone to keep me in check and just keep me, keep my priorities straight, keep my focus levels and my emphasis on the right things. And then I met a guy by the name of Duncan Woods, who's a life coach. And Duncan and I have been working together for a few years now, and the difference that he's made is fantastic, where he just gives me perspective. And there's so many of these small little people that you meet along the line that join the team and help add value to this. Like you say, it's a business. You're a brand. And every single person that we have within the Brandon Stone brand is a valuable contributing member. And if they're not, they go. And it's got to be cutthroat, but it's the same as a business. Well, the person who's head of marketing, if they're not putting up banners on the side of the highway, they're not going to keep their job. But I'm very fortunate that the team that I have around me at the moment is very solid. Everyone works really hard and everyone adds value. So as far as the Brandon Stone Incorporated, if you want to call it that, we are moving in the right direction.
Now, just in closing, you make a very good point about finding that balance and obviously bringing someone like Duncan in. Duncan was the ex-water polo player, right?
Yeah, ex-South African water polo player, and if I'm not mistaken, Mr. March in some swimsuit calendar along the line.
I think he was. Yeah, I mean, he was a dashing guy. Obviously, a great experience around sports, everything else as well.
Yeah.
So the guy obviously has a great background. Now, you have started your own foundation at the tender age of what, 26?
26, yeah. So that honestly is a true testament to Duncan and his ability to make me see the greater scheme of things. Because I remember so vividly in one of the first conversations that we had, he just almost forced me to self-realize that golf was playing too much of a role in my day-to-day mood and my day-to-day happiness.
Sure.
So what he did is he just helped me realize the perspective of everything. And he's like, well, Brandon, what do you enjoy? I said, I love helping people. Like, I would give my mates and people that I could help the shirt off my back if I could. So he's like, well, how are you going to develop that? So I'm like, well, I help cupcakes for kids with cancer. So he's like, well, are you happy with this? I feel like I could do more. So then we kind of came up with this idea that when Brandon Stone is sitting on that beach in Florida at 50 years old, sipping on a pina colada.
That sounds very much like a plan.
It's definitely a plan. I don't want to be recognized only as Brandon Stone, the golfer. I want to have a legacy that I leave behind. And you could put it down to guys like Ernie, who's done the same, guys like Gary Player, guys like Louis Oosthuizen, who are changing their brands. I mean, what Ernie's done for the Else for Autism around the world sets him apart from anyone else. And the Brandon Stone Foundation is that. It's to make sure that when I'm retired one day, people don't refer to me as the golfer. They refer to me as someone that helped give scholarships and help actually make South Africa a better place. And having that, if you want to call it different avenue of thought and different avenue of time and energy, helps me maintain my perspective. So if I have a round of golf where I shoot 82 at a major at the Open and feel embarrassed, I realize, well, still going to peg it up tomorrow. I'm still going to go play next week, still make a little bit of cash, still going to be able to provide a scholarship to some kid in South Africa who, without my financial help, would not be able to go to school. And you sit back and you go, well, 82 is actually not that bad. Let's just be honest. I could be digging a hole in the middle of the Kimberley there trying to look for a diamond, whereas here I get to stroll the fairways of a top 100 golf course in the world. So Duncan made me realize that perspective. And like I said, every single person within the team has that value, and that's Duncan's value to me. He just keeps me grounded, he keeps me on the right track, and he just shows me that one round of golf does not define a legacy.
Well, Brandon, it's been a very up and down year. Prior to COVID, your form was pretty good. You had a very good stretch. Was it 7 cuts made in 10? You unfortunately, in the playoff in Oman.
Yeah.
So the form's there, and I have seen you swing recently. So I wish you all the best with the season coming up, because now you're off to Europe to go and try to become a professional golfer again. If you do want to see, obviously, more of Brandon, he is on our MatchKit platform. So matchkit.co/Brandon M. Stone.
Correct.
What does the M stand for?
Magical.
Okay.
No, Michael.
So Brandon M. MatchKit.co, Brandon M. Stone. You can find out all about him, of course, all his social media platforms, to follow him as he is going through his progress as a pro golfer, and of course be a part of the Brandon Stone Foundation, where he looks to make a difference in kids in South Africa. Are you an athlete looking to better commercialize your career? Visit matchkit.co/register and see what this unique web builder can do for your sporting profile.